Chapter 261. Wu Ming walked out of the hole in the wall that was created when he hit Bazette. After coming out, Wu Ming saw Ilya and Little Black who had transformed. One was squatting on the ground looking at Bazette, and the other was looking around vigilantly with Mei Yu who had also transformed. After all, they didn't know if there were other enemies around. Bazette was lying on the cracked and sunken ground, constantly struggling to stand up. Wu Ming said whether he could survive or not just to scare Bazette. Wu Ming controlled his strength very well. He just broke Bazette's spine and other parts of Bazette's arm and leg bones, but he didn't kill Bazette. That caused Bazette to be unable to move normally. However, Bazette was worthy of being called a monster by Rin Enbin. Most of his bones and spine were broken, but Bazette was still able to stand up. I really have some doubts about whether you are a human, Bazette. Wu Ming looked at Bazette with admiration. No matter what, such an opponent should be respected. Ilya, Mei Yu, and Little Black took 2 steps back and looked at the magician who didn't look like a human. Since you now know that I am on their side, then do you still want to seize all the cards? Wu Ming wasn't in a hurry to deal with Bazette. Instead, he talked to him. The higher-ups didn't expect that there would be a servant to stop them. The mission has changed. I need to ask the higher-ups for instructions. Although his bones were broken, Bazette seemed to have used some special method to block the pain. Although his body was a little embarrassed, Bazette didn't seem to feel any pain. He was very calm and talked to Wu Ming. You don't need to ask the higher-ups. I will go directly to them. You can stay here. After that, Wu Ming activated Heaven Lock. Golden spatial ripples appeared around Bazette, and suddenly, golden chains appeared out of nowhere and bound him. The chain that connects the sky and earth of Mesopotamia? Bazette seemed to recognize the chain and gave up struggling. Even if she struggled, she wouldn't be able to break free. What's going on, big brother? Ilya asked, somewhat at a loss. That's right. Don't keep us in the dark. Blackie agreed. Wu Ming's big hands instantly pressed Ilya's and Black's heads and rubbed them vigorously. You too, you still have class tomorrow. This is your punishment. Hurry up and go back to sleep. Sob. Little Black and Ilya sobbed. Wu Ming let go of Blackie and Ilya, and the two began to complain. Really, big brother is so rude. Ilya rubbed her hair that was messed up by Wu Ming with a red face and complained while looking at Wu Ming. Also, why is Mei Yu fine? Blackie's face was also red as he pointed at Mei Yu, who was standing beside Wu Ming. Me. The little companions who were implicated looked at the two in a daze. Yes, that's right. Mei Yu also needs to be punished. Then let us punish her. Then, Ilya and Blackie looked at Mei Yu with an evil expression and walked toward her step by step. Wait a moment. Wu Ming took 2 steps back in a panic. Bang. 2 knocks sounded. Wu Ming put away the hand that he used to hit Ilya and Blackie, looked at the 2 little Lolas who were hugging their heads and said, Mei Yu is much more self-disciplined than the 2 of you. Mei Yu is such an obedient little sister, so how can I punish her? Only disobedient little sisters can be used to tease. Cough, educate. Sob, big brother is bullying. Ilya looked at Wu Ming with tears in her eyes. Yes, big brother is bullying. Blackie also learned from Ilya. The 2 of you. Wu Ming shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Then, he used his finger that was infused with magic power to poke their foreheads. It doesn't hurt anymore. Ilya touched her forehead and looked at Wu Ming with amazement. It's just a little trick. Hurry up and go back. Ling and Luvia are fine. I will tell you what happened tomorrow. Also, when you came out, you must not have explained to Sela and the others clearly. She must be worried about the 2 of you now. Wu Ming reminded. Not good, Blackie. Let's go back quickly. Ilya pulled Blackie's hand and hurriedly ran back. Don't pull me, Ilya. At this moment, Rin and Osaka, Luvia and Luvia's butler, August, who had already recovered, walked out of the house. Sister Rin, Sister Luvia, Grandpa August, are you okay? Seeing the few people who were in a sorry state, Mei Yu ran over and asked worriedly. Although she knew that her brother Wu Ming said that they were fine, Mei Yu still couldn't help but worry. We are already fine. Thanks to the Loon Stone provided by Wu Ming, the effect was unexpectedly good. Rin and Osaka said and moved his arm to show that he was now very healthy. After all, their sorry state was only because their clothes were dirty in the battle. The injuries caused by the battle had already healed. Thank you for your concern, Meiyu. We are fine. Now, we need to pay attention to the problem of how to deal with this. Luvia finished speaking and looked at Bazette, who was tied up by Wu Ming's heaven lock. Bazette closed his eyes and looked like he was waiting to be slaughtered. At this moment, Wu Ming expressed his opinion. Regarding this matter, I will personally go to the clock tower to deal with it. Bazette will stay in the Shuayu residence. However, not only Rin and Osaka and Luvia, but even August and Meiyu could sense that when Wu Ming said that he would personally deal with it, his eyes became very scary. However, it was also very reliable. Having a reliable partner is really reassuring. Then, I will leave it to you, Wu Ming. Rin and Osaka and Luvia looked at each other and smiled. Right. How are you going to sleep tonight? Although the house hasn't completely collapsed, part of the house has been destroyed. How about staying in the Shuayu residence temporarily? Wu Ming suggested. August, go and check the damage of the villa. If it really can't be done, we will go to Wu Ming and Meiyu's house. Luvia ordered her butler. Yes, Mississippi. With that, the strong old man strode toward the back of the villa and began to check the situation of the villa. At this moment, Wu Ming walked toward Bazette. Wu Ming, are you going to do something to Bazette? Rin and Osaka asked curiously when he saw Wu Ming's actions. Yes, I have basically broken all of Bazette's bones. If I don't fix it now, it might leave some hidden injuries in the future. With that, lines of Lune runes representing repair, life, and heal appeared in Wu Ming's hand and wrapped around Bazette's body. Bazette looked deeply at Wu Ming and didn't say anything. Then, Rin and Osaka asked. By the way, should we postpone the matter of the 9th rank card? Chapter 262. When Rin Enbin brought up this topic, Meiyu's expression suddenly changed. Wu Ming naturally noticed it. Let's talk about this tomorrow. It's already late, everyone should go back and rest. Then, without waiting for Rin Enbin and Luvia to react, Wu Ming opened the teleportation door and left with Meiyu and Bazette. Where Wu Ming left, a stone engraved with mysterious runes was left there. The stone glowed, and Wu Ming's voice came from the sky. When you decide to live here, inject magic into this rune stone and it will open the teleportation door. Meiyu and I will go back first. The voice disappeared, and only the runes on the stone glowed. Rin Enbin and Luvia looked at each other, and both of them saw the clues in each other's eyes. Seems like Wu Ming and Meiyu have some secret that they don't want us to know. And it's a secret that has a lot to do with rank cards. However, the two's conversation ended there. Then, Rin Enbin picked up the rune stone. After this crisis, Wu Ming's relationship with Rin Enbin and Luvia improved. Since they obviously didn't want them to know, then there was no need to ask. When the time came, Wu Ming would definitely tell them. Just like Rin Enbin and Luvia, they usually looked like they were fighting to the death, but when the time came, the two of them could cooperate very well. This was the bond that existed even in the dark magician world. Shuasuki Mansion. Wu Ming walked out of the teleportation door with Meiyu, who was no longer in her transformed state. As for Bazette, she was already thrown into the Shuasuki Mansion by Wu Ming using the teleportation door. Wu Ming believed that Bazette wouldn't run away. It should be said that she was trapped in Wu Ming's magic workshop and couldn't escape. Brother Wu Ming. Meiyu timidly called out to Wu Ming. Are you thinking about the 9th rank card? Wu Ming squatted down and looked at Meiyu. Wu Ming once told Meiyu that she became a rank card and followed Wu Ming from another world. However, even if that was the case, there should only be 8 rank cards, and the 9th one shouldn't exist. Brother Wu Ming, could it be? Wu Ming looked at Wu Ming worriedly. Wu Ming naturally understood Meiyu's meaning. Meiyu was worried that the Ainsworth family chased her to this world. Although Meiyu was once called the Holy Grail by the Ainsworth family, and Meiyu was also the center of the Holy Grail War, but because of the protection of Wu Ming and Shiro Amiya, Meiyu didn't suffer too much harm, so Meiyu didn't show a particularly scared look. Because Brother Wu Ming is by my side, as long as Brother Wu Ming is by my side, I have infinite motivation. Meiyu had always relied on this idea to fight. It's okay, Meiyu. Wu Ming touched Meiyu's head. I will personally retrieve the rank card, and I will do it with all my strength. After all, he didn't know whether this rank card was Ainsworth's bait, but if he didn't retrieve it, it would cause harm to the ley line, so Wu Ming decided to retrieve the card in a safe manner. I want to go with Brother Wu Ming. Mei Yu looked at Wu Ming with particular determination. I now have the power to fight. Although I am very happy to accept Brother Wu Ming's protection, if possible, I want to fight with Brother Wu Ming. Wu Ming, who had long guessed that Mei Yu would say this, smiled with some relief. It's good that you have such thoughts, but you have to know one thing, Mei Yu. If this is a conspiracy of the Ainsworth family, then they will definitely play tricks after we enter the mirror world. As their target, you are the first person to bear the brunt of their protection. This is why I want you to retrieve the card with me. Moreover, if I encounter any traps or accidents in the mirror world, you and Ilya can still support me outside. If we are all turtles in a jar, then everything is over. Wu Ming persuaded Mei Yu earnestly. But, shouldn't Brother Wu Ming, the strongest one, be the trump card? Mei Yu was still a little worried about Wu Ming. However, Wu Ming shook his head. It's because I'm the strongest, so if it's a conspiracy of the Ainsworth family, it's better for me to deal with it than for you to deal with it. For the time being, let's not talk about the conspiracy of the Ainsworth family. Except for me, I'm afraid that all of you can't defeat the servant who has absorbed the magic power of the ley line for a month. I know, Brother Wu Ming. Looking at Mei Yu, who was a little unwilling, but still nodded, Wu Ming smiled. Well, I know you are worried about me, but the role you play outside is also very important. Wu Ming rubbed Mei Yu's hair and comforted her. I know, Brother Wu Ming, don't rub it anymore. My hair is going to become a chicken's nest. Mei Yu protested. Looking at Mei Yu, who had returned to her original state, Wu Ming nodded. Then, Wu Ming hugged Mei Yu and put his forehead close to Mei Yu. I will let you live a peaceful life. I swear by myself. Wu Ming said quite calmly. Well, I believe in you, Brother Wu Ming. The stars in the sky shone on the brother and sister for a long time. The next morning, Mei Yu went to Ilya's house and went to school with Ilya. Rin Tasaka and Livia took half a day off and discussed with Wu Ming. After Wu Ming's inspection yesterday, although Livia's villa didn't collapse, there were no more bedrooms or guest rooms that could be used. Therefore, after Wu Ming coaxed Mei Yu to sleep, Livia and the others went to the Shuasuki residence through the teleportation door left by Wu Ming. In the living room of the Shuasuki residence, Wu Ming, Rin Tasaka, and Livia were sitting around a table. On the table was the parchment map that Rin Tasaka had used to detect the ley lines. The mirror world is deep underground. This is a bit troublesome, Livia said. Because it was underground, the mirror world must also be underground. In other words, the mirror world was full of soil, and in order to enter the mirror world, one must be in the corresponding position. In other words, if Wu Ming wanted to enter the mirror world, he must open up a sufficient space in the underground mirror world. I want to directly dig down and then enter the mirror world to retrieve the rank cards. Wu Ming waved his hand and said casually, Stop your weird thoughts. If you do that, the mirror world will only be a space filled with soil. Rin Tasaka said irritably. First, you have to dig a tunnel and then open up an underground space at the target location. Rin Tasaka then rubbed his chin and analyzed. Then, I'll call it Livia Salinta Eiderfelt. Livia pointed at herself arrogantly. Indeed, for a nouveau riche like you, opening up an underground space is nothing. Rin Tasaka looked at Livia with jealousy. There was no helping it. She was rich. Then Wu Ming, have you really decided to enter the mirror world alone? Rin Tasaka and Livia looked at Wu Ming. Chapter 263. Wu Ming looked at Rin Enbin in surprise. It can't be helped. This is the best choice for now. Rin Enbin sighed. You're right. Then I wish you good luck. Trust me. Even if I die, I won't really die. My real body isn't here. You have to survive. Livia looked at Wu Ming. I remember Mei Yu's birthday is coming up. When we celebrate with her, I don't think Mei Yu will be happy without you as her brother. During Mei Yu's stay at Livia's house, Livia accidentally found out about Mei Yu's birthday because she wanted to know more about Mei Yu and Wu Ming's past. I remember Mei Yu happily telling me that you celebrated her first birthday with her. The smile on her face was the brightest I've ever seen. You're right. It's almost July 20th. Wu Ming closed his eyes and recalled the 5 years he spent with Mei Yu. Every time Mayo's birthday came up, Wuming would throw a fun party for Mayu. Including Mayu, there were only 3 people. Wuming still remembered that Amiya Kiritsugu's death made Shiro Amiya sad for a few days. At the time, it was Mayo's birthday. Shiro Amiya forced a smile and celebrated Mayo's birthday with Wuming. In the end, Mayu saw Shiro Amiya's sadness and made a fool of herself. At the time, Mayo's emotions weren't very rich. But now, Mayu had changed a lot. However, because Wuming was also a problematic child, Mayo's emotions were still not at the level of a normal person even after a few years of school life. However, Wuming was lucky to have Ran Baqian. If he hadn't met Mayu, if only Shiro Amiya was left to take care of Mayu after Amiya Kiritsugu's death, with Shiro Amiya's personality and Amiya Kiritsugu's teachings, perhaps Shiro Amiya would take care of Mayu like a prop. Well, Wuming felt that Shiro Amiya might not listen to Kiritsugu and take care of Mayu like a sister. That's all for now. Wuming opened his eyes. I'll leave the plan to build the channel to you guys. After speaking, Wuming left as if he didn't care about anything else. It's rare to have time to rest. Let Mayu rest more and enjoy this birthday. Soon, it was July 20th, which was right next to the summer vacation. During this period of time, Mayu and the others' primary school life was still as usual. They continued to play and learn every day. However, it seemed that they noticed the slight change in Wuming's and Mayo's mood. Elia and Little Blackie didn't stay in their own house. Instead, they often stayed in Shua Yu's house. This made Sela complain to Wuming often. However, Alice Field smiled happily and said, "Isn't that great? Mr. Wuming is a good person." On the other hand, Rin Enbin and Luvia were wholeheartedly focused on building the channel. It was worth mentioning that perhaps because they were both Holy Grails, Mayu and Elia's birthdays were actually on the same day. As for Little Blackie, who was Elia's other half, it was naturally the same birthday as them. This became a big party for the 3 of them to celebrate their birthdays at the same time. As Winterwood City wasn't far from the seaside, Wuming, Mayu, Elia, Little Blackie, and the others discussed celebrating their birthdays by the seaside. It was worth mentioning that the quartet who often played with Elia and the others also agreed to celebrate their birthdays by the seaside. But Wuming felt that they were mainly going to the seaside to play. By the seaside, Wuming wore swimming trunks and revealed his muscular upper body. Looking at the few of them who had already started playing around, Wuming turned to Mayu beside him. "Mayu, why aren't you playing with your friends?" Mayu was wearing a fresh and cute swimsuit. Because she wasn't used to it, her face was slightly red. I want to play with Brother Wuming." "It's good that you have such intentions. It's rare for you to have playmates, so hurry up and go play." Wuming nudged Mayu, indicating for Mayu to go over. Mayu looked at Elia and the others who were waving at her, then looked at Wuming and nodded with a smile. "Okay, then Brother Wuming, see you later." With that, Mayu ran toward Elia. As expected, Mayu has become very close to a normal person. Wuming crossed his arms and nodded. "I really couldn't tell that Lord Hyunryong is actually a siscon." A serious female voice came from behind Wuming. Wuming narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look behind him. "What? I'm not allowed to be a siscon. I have a full understanding of modern human society." Wuming looked at Bazette with displeasure. Fully understanding modern society doesn't mean one has to be a siscon. This was something that Bazette didn't dare to say. "No, I'm just casually saying it. Please don't take it to heart." At this moment, Bazette was dragging a large amount of luggage behind him. "Heh. If you're a servant, then do your job well. Do you still want tips?" Wuming said with a smile. However, now Wuming's smile was slightly broken. "Yes, master." Bazette had an involuntary expression and bowed to Wuming. Now, Wuming was Bazette's master, and Bazette was a servant under Wuming. A few days after Bazette attacked Luvia's house, Wuming went to Zelika's office and asked for a list of people. Then, Wuming visited these people one by one in a friendly manner overnight. After they promised with tears in their eyes, Wuming left after teaching them a lesson. Oh right, these people also gifted Wuming a large amount of rare magic materials. Since they were gifted with great kindness, how could Wuming not accept it? And the reason why Bazette became like this was because of Luvia. Luvia's family, the Eiderfelts, used the destruction of the mansion as an excuse to pressure these forces. This caused these forces that were robbed clean by Wuming to be unable to explain themselves and could only sell Bazette. All of his credit cards were frozen, and all travel expenses were cancelled. This was Bazette who was scammed by the higher-ups. Could it only be described as evil capitalism? Because Bazette lived in the Shua Yu house before the order was issued, Wuming used the threat of eating my food, living in my house, using my money, to force Bazette to work in Wuming's house. Just like this, the penniless Bazette had no choice but to become Wuming's servant. And he was a servant who didn't have a salary and only received tips. It couldn't be helped. After all, Bazette was in debt to begin with. Then, go put down your luggage. We'll be spending the night here. As he spoke, Wuming took out a large amount of money. Take this money and use it as your activity fund. If there's any left, use it as your travel expenses. Yes, master. I'll go now. Bazette took the money. Although his facial expression didn't change much, his somewhat lively tone betrayed Bazette's unstable heart. Although Wuming's Shua Yu house's wealth couldn't be compared to the long-established Eiderfeldt's family, but in Winterwood City, it was still considered a big local. Naturally, it had this small amount of money. Wuming laid down on the beach chair that was already set up, basking in the sun with a face full of enjoyment. Sure enough, when it's time to enjoy. Summer vacation is the best. Chapter 264. In the end, Wuming didn't get to enjoy the sunlight for long before Little Black pulled him over. Big brother, it's rare for you to come to the beach. Don't just lie there. Come and play in the water. Yes, I know. Just like that, Wuming was pulled over by Little Black and they played a game of beach volleyball. Wuming, Little Black, Meiyu, Moriyama Nanakuru were in one group. Ilya, Yu Genza Ryuko, Kurihara Tarika, and Gue Mimi were in the other group. Of course, this was the result of drawing lots. Although Ilya was a bit angry that she couldn't be in the same group as Wuming and was even mocked by Little Black, Ilya still tried her best to play beach volleyball. Although the result was that Wuming's group won. After that, Kurihara Tarika gritted her teeth and tried to persuade her. All right, it's just a game anyway. Be happy. Today is your birthday, Ilya. That's right. Moriyama Nanakuru agreed. Be happy, Ilya-chan. The gentle Gue Mimi also tried to persuade her. Although Kurihara Tarika and the others said so, Ilya was still a bit unwilling. Hoo. I originally wanted to be in the same group as Big Brother. Not to mention that I couldn't be in the same group as Big Brother, I was even mocked by Little Black. After Wuming's group won, Little Black hugged Wuming and kissed him. Although I can't deny that Little Black is excited, I really can't accept it. Ilya looked at Little Black and Wuming who were playing with each other. She was very disappointed. Tarika looked at Ilya awkwardly. Brother complex is really scary. Speaking of brothers, Tarika thought of Ilya's brother, Shiro Amiya. Speaking of which, why didn't Ilya's brother come? My brother seemed to have said, it's not good for me to go to a birthday party full of little girls. Besides, Mr. Wuming will also go back, and I still have work to do in school. My brother used this reason to refuse to come to the beach. Oh, Ilya is really calm. I remember that Ilya seemed to like her brother in the past. Why did she change to like Meiyo's brother now? Nanao Moriyama narrowed her eyes and said in a strange tone. You, what are you talking about? How could I like Big Brother? It could only be said that Ilya was still a child and did not know how to hide it at all. Kurihara Kabana and the others could tell at a glance. I don't think it's a good idea to interrogate Ilya like that, Kurihara Tora said, a little embarrassed. Yes. Gue Mimi, the lowly with a weak sense of existence, also nodded. By the way, aren't you guys interested? Meiyu likes her brother a lot. Does Ilya want to steal Meiyo's true love and act out a sad love story with Meiyo's brother? Nanao Moriyama's words attracted Kurihara Tora's attention, and even Gue Mimi was a little moved. After all, children of this age were especially curious, and it was inevitable for them to have wild imaginations, including Ilya. Love story. Steal Big Brother from Meiyu. How is that possible, Nakuri-chan? Stop talking nonsense. Ilya was at a loss and shouted in panic. Does Ilya want Brother Wuming? This was Meiyu, who was worried about Ilya's situation and left Wuming and Little Black's team to visit Ilya. May you? What are you talking about? I didn't mean that. Now, encountering the person she was talking about, Ilya was a little embarrassed at this moment. If it's Ilya, then it's not impossible. I can share Brother Wuming with you. Mei Yu considered for a moment and said as if she had made up her mind. Oh! What a surprise, Mei Yu-chan. He actually wants to share Big Brother Wuming with Ilya. Ilya's little friends were all astonished. What? Did I miss something? This was Yu Genza Ryuko, who had just returned from swimming in the sea after playing beach volleyball. There's nothing. Ilya pulled Mei Yu and ran away. Did I miss something? Yu Genza Ryuko looked at Kurahara Tora and others innocently. Bang! Kurahara Tora punched Yu Genza Ryuko's head. Yu Genza Ryuko's eyes instantly turned into mosquito smoke, and then he instantly fell to the ground. Really, don't come and make trouble. In the distance, Ilya, who was pulling Mei Yu and running away, stopped at a large rock and gasped for breath. Ilya? Mei Yu didn't understand why Ilya pulled her and ran away. She tilted her head and looked at Ilya. That. Tora and others were just joking. Ahaha. Ilya laughed awkwardly. But Mei Yu still had a puzzled expression. Because it's a little embarrassing. Although I like Big Brother, he's Mei Yu's big brother after all. Moreover, I liked my own big brother before, so this makes me seem a little unladylike. No. I didn't say that. Ilya explained in a panic. Mei Yu looked behind Ilya. Little Black walked out from behind the rock. Really, Ilya, do you have to be so timid? If you love, say it out loud. Little Black looked at Ilya speechlessly. Don't tell me you didn't. Little Black interrupted Ilya's words. Don't try to lie. I was one with you not long ago. I can say that I know everything that you know and think. Little Black was like a general that made Ilya speechless. Mei Yu looked at Ilya, who lowered her head and was even more puzzled. That's because Big Brother helped you many times in battle. He even helped you when you were in danger. However, because of this, you gradually fell in love with Big Brother, Little Black continued. This isn't something that's difficult to talk about. After all, it's very easy to conquer a person in such a situation. Ilya, we're still children. We might not have a clear understanding of things like love. You don't have to be so afraid and feel inferior just because you fell in love with Big Brother. I'm sorry, Mei Yu. Ilya lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at Mei Yu. However, Mei Yu only shook her head and held Mei Yu's hand. I understand Ilya's feelings very well. I remember the first time I met Brother Wuming. Wuming used his warm and powerful arms to save me. From that moment onwards, I felt that I couldn't leave Brother Wuming. Mei Yu recalled how Wuming had saved her in Frank's house. Mei Yu revealed a smile that Ilya and Little Black had never seen before. Seriously, what's wrong with you guys? Why aren't you guys here yet? Are you guys chatting about something interesting? At this moment, Wuming walked out from the other side of the rock. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya changed the topic in a panic. Bazette brought watermelons. I wanted Little Black to call you guys over to eat. I didn't expect to be delayed for so long. Wuming pointed at the watermelons placed on the beach and Eugenza and the others who had already started to enjoy them. I'm sorry, Big Brother. I forgot about this because we were talking about something interesting. Little Black stuck out his tongue in embarrassment. That's nothing. I thought something had happened. All right, let's go eat the watermelons. Yes. Chapter 265. Time passed quickly while everyone was playing by the beach. By the time everyone reacted, it was almost late. Okay, everyone go to the house over there. Let's start the birthday party. Yes, the temperature at night by the sea in summer generally dropped a little, which added a trace of relief to the summer heat. As the sun gradually set and the moon slowly rose, Wuming and the others gathered at the dining table. There were countless delicacies on the table. Although they were not made by Wuming, the taste was top-notch. After all, this was made by the chef that Wuming spent a lot of money to hire. In the center of the table was a cake with ice cream and ice. It made people feel refreshed just by looking at it. What a sumptuous table of food. Ilya smiled happily. The changes in her mood caused by what happened during the day had almost recovered at this moment. Of course. This is my shop. Yu Zhen's face was full of pride. That's right. By the way, because this shop was the most popular one around, Wuming also chose this shop. When they found out that this shop was the property of Yu Zhen's family, Ilya and the others were quite surprised. By the way, the chef was hired by Wuming. In short, Yu Zhen's provided the shop, and the delicacies were provided by others. Although Yu Zhen's father was a little unwilling at first, when Wuming paid enough money, they happily agreed. Wuming couldn't help but sigh at the power of money again. Wuming remembered that Luvia was able to make Bazette's higher-ups compromise. Well, even if Bazette's higher-ups didn't give in, Wuming wouldn't let Bazette go back. Not afraid of death, not afraid of pain, beautiful appearance, vigorous skills, and the power to create the backlight sword. She would do whatever the higher-ups told her to do. She was extremely obedient, pure, and so on. In Wuming's view, Bazette was simply a perfect servant. How could he let her go? Ahem, back to the topic. Before starting the meal, Wuming took out the birthday gifts prepared for the three of them. 3 football-sized boxes were tied with pink, blue, and red bows respectively. Thank you, big brother, Brother Wuming. The three of them appeared to be a little emotional at this moment. Hey, big brother, can I open it now? Little Black looked at Wuming expectantly. Of course you can. You can all open it now. After all, it was prepared for you. Wuming waved his hand, indicating that Xiaofan and the others could open it. The three of them couldn't wait to open the packaging and take out the contents of the box. There were 3 gift boxes that were slightly larger than the size of a palm. However, based on their exquisite appearance, they must be very valuable. I personally wrapped these 3 boxes, and the gifts inside were prepared by me without anyone else's permission. Open them and take a look. Big brother, did you make it yourself? Ilya glanced at Wuming and carefully opened the gift box. What entered Ilya's eyes was an exquisite pendant necklace. Naturally, Xiaofan and Mayo's gifts were also pendant necklaces. The most important places on the 3 necklaces were decorated with beautiful gems. However, Ilya's pendant was mainly pink, Mayo's pendant was mainly blue, and Xiaofan's pendant was mainly red. The gems were also the same. Wow, so beautiful! Kurihara Norika said somewhat exaggeratedly from across the table. It's really beautiful. The quiet lowly Gue Mimi said with an envious expression. I can only say that as expected of a member of a large family, this gift is very thoughtful. Moriyama Nantorai nodded. Although Wuming didn't stay in Winterwood City for a long time, Wuming used some legal methods to create a Shutsuki family in Winterwood City. To the outside world, it was announced that the Shutsuki residents had moved to Winterwood City. Many people knew about this, so Moriyama Nantorai wasn't worried about this matter. It's not for eating. Bad review, bad review. Bang! Kurihara Norika instantly stepped on Yu Zhen's Ryuko under the table. You idiot, even if you're joking, you have to look at the atmosphere. After Ilya, Mei Yu, and Xiaofan took out the necklaces, they were all attracted by the beautiful necklaces. However, Xiaofan's eyes turned as she thought of something and looked at Wuming. Big brother, I want you to put it on for me, okay? Ah! Xiaofan is too cunning, I want it too. Ilya didn't want to be outdone and said. Wuming looked at Mei Yu, who also had an expectant expression, and then agreed. Okay, line up, one by one. After taking the necklace from Xiaofan's hand, Wuming wrapped it around Xiaofan's neck and easily put it on. I love you the most, big brother. Xiaofan instantly kissed Wuming's cheek and shouted happily. Ah! Xiaofan, what are you doing? Ilya said in a panic. This is my thank you gift for big brother. You can do the same. After all, no one said that you can't do this. Xiaofan looked at Ilya provocatively and smiled at her. Humph. Ilya walked in front of Wuming and handed the necklace to Wuming. Then, when Ilya was hesitating whether to kiss Wuming or not, Wuming put on Ilya's necklace for her. He left Ilya with a regretful look. Finally, it was Mayo's turn. Brother Wuming. Meiyu looked at Wuming with a red face. Clearly, she was also wondering if she could be like Xiaofan. Why are you hesitating about this? As long as Meiyu grows up healthily and happily, it will be the greatest thank you gift for me. With that, Wu-ming put on the necklace for Mei Yu. Thank you, brother Wu-ming, for always being with me. With that, Mei Yu gently approached Wu-ming's cheek and kissed Wu-ming's cheek. You even did it for Mei Yu. Ilya lay on the ground with a defeated expression. Wu-ming smiled and patted Mei Yu's head. This formed the warmest scene between siblings in this banquet. It must be said that after the three of them put on the necklace, there was a considerable change. They were originally beautiful people. When they were matched with beautiful accessories, it was no longer 1 + 1 = 2. Instead, it was an even greater number. The three of them are so beautiful. I must say that Mei Yu's big brother matched them quite well. I think they're very beautiful. Ilya, Mei Yu, and Xiao He. As expected, food is a better gift. MHM. MHM. Bam! Shut up. Don't make such jokes again. Ha 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 ha. Accompanied by everyone's laughter, they started this sumptuous banquet. Wu-ming looked at Mei Yu, who was laughing happily, and smiled as well. This smile was especially warm. Chapter 266. Although the beach where Wu-ming and the others were at was very close to Winterwood City, they still stayed in a hotel by the sea that night. After all, it was a birthday party, and Wu-ming certainly couldn't let the guests run around after the party. Therefore, Wu-ming, who had a small fortune, booked the entire hotel for everyone to play and stay. The next day, Wu-ming booked a car and sent everyone home. In the afternoon, Wu-ming went to Livia's house and asked about the establishment of the underground passage. Because we are only responsible for supporting you, the passage is almost completed. Originally, Livia wanted to build a battle fortress. At the very least, she could arrange the terrain in advance when she fought against the mirror world servants transformed by cards. After all, the mirror world was just a reflection of this world. Except for the fact that there were no people and the color of the environment was slightly different, it was just like the real world. So soon? I thought we would have to wait a few more days. Wu-ming said with some surprise. We've dismantled all the places that were originally designed as traps, and simply built an underground tunnel that can withstand high impact. If that's all, of course, it can be completed quickly. Rin and Osaka stroked her twin ponytails and explained to Wu-ming, then asked. By the way, when did you decide to retrieve the card, so we can be prepared? Yes, even if we don't go into the mirror world with you, we still have to be prepared. This card that has been absorbing for nearly 2 months may evolve into something we can't imagine. Even if you are a servant, Wu-ming, you can't be careless. Counting from the first job rank card, from Wu-ming's departure to Little Black's separation from Ilya's body, Bazette's attack on Livia's family, and Livia's secret relationship with Rin Enbin, Mio, Ilya, and Little Black's birthdays were almost 2 months away. In the worst-case scenario, this class card was a monster that had been absorbing ley line magic for 2 months. It had to be said that Rin and Osaka and Livia were very thoughtful. When Wu-ming dealt with the most difficult berserker, it took almost a whole day. Although Hercules was strengthened by the black mud, and Wu-ming was limited by the body of a servant, it was enough to see how difficult it was to deal with a card transformed into a servant. Even if the 9th card was Assassin, after absorbing the magic power of the Earth Vein for nearly 2 months, its power would become extraordinary. In short, this class card was very difficult to deal with. Wu-ming thought for a moment, then looked at Rin and Osaka and Livia. Let's do it tomorrow. Rin and Livia looked at each other, then nodded to Wu-ming. After returning to the Shuasuki house, Wu-ming saw Mei Yu waiting for him as soon as he entered the door. Welcome back, brother Wu-ming. Mei Yu smiled and looked straight at Wu-ming. Wu-ming froze for a moment, then walked in front of Mei Yu and touched her head. I'm back, my lovely sister Mei Yu. Looking at Mei Yu's face, Wu-ming felt very relieved. Brother Wu-ming, I made dinner, let's eat together. Although Wu-ming often cooked at home, it didn't mean that Mei Yu didn't know how to cook. On the contrary, Mei Yu's cooking skills could be said to be deeply Wu-ming's inheritance. If Mei Yu worked as a chef in a restaurant, then the restaurant would definitely make a lot of money. Of course, Wu-ming certainly wouldn't allow it. A magical girl becoming a chef? Are you kidding me? Oh, then I must taste it well. I haven't eaten much during this time. The servant's body only needed magical power. Wu-ming usually ate out of habit. In the dining room of the Shuasuki house, Wu-ming tasted Mei Yu's dishes. It's delicious, It seems that Mei Yu will grow up to be an excellent and beautiful bride. Bride? Can I really become a bride? At the moment, Mei Yu seemed a little uneasy. Wu Ming, who was very familiar with Mei Yu, naturally knew what Mei Yu was thinking. Don't worry, Mei Yu. Your brother will protect you for a lifetime. Modestly speaking, if my main body is here, even the suppression will have to give in to me. Although she didn't quite understand what suppression was, since Brother Wu Ming said it must be a powerful character. Mei Yu thought. Brother Wu Ming has always been so powerful, and has always been so reliable. Looking at Wu Ming's rather proud expression, Mei Yu, who was originally a little depressed, was also amused by Wu Ming. That's why Mei Yu just needs to be happy. Otherwise, as her older brother, I would be neglecting my duty. Looking at the short black hair that covered her blonde hair because of the use of magic, and then looking at Wu Ming's pale golden pupils and Wu Ming's handsome face that didn't want to live for a long time, Mei Yu's beautiful face showed a beautiful smile. Now I feel that it's really a miracle to be able to be Brother Wu Ming's sister. Ha! Why do you suddenly say that? Wu Ming was somewhat puzzled. Nothing. Mei Yu looked at Wu Ming and continued to smile. Although he was still somewhat puzzled, but I'm also very happy, Mei Yu, to be able to be your sister, to be your brother. Although it seemed like nothing major happened between the two, Wu Ming knew that his relationship with Mei Yu had improved. The next night, Wu Ming, Mei Yu, Blackie, Ilya, Rin Enbin, and Luvia all gathered on the beach. Because Luvia and Rin Enbin detected that the location of the 9th class card was under the beach near the sea, Luvia directly let her construction team rent the nearby beach for construction. When Wu Ming, Mei Yu, and the others held a birthday party together, Wu Ming chose another beach, so Wu Ming and the others didn't let the construction dampen their spirits. By the way, Luvia's house that was destroyed by Bazette had already been repaired. Let's go, this should be the final battle. Probably. Rin Enbin's final words at the end made the originally stressful atmosphere relax a little. Rin is right, after all, there are already 2 extra cards, we can't rule out the possibility of other cards. Luvia explained. Don't worry, this is indeed the final battle. After this battle, I will tell you the origin of the class card, as well as the secrets of me and Mei Yu. We have been waiting for this for a long time, big brother. When the time comes, you have to tell me properly. Blackie hugged Wu Ming's arm and acted coquettishly. Could it be that everyone already knows that Brother Wu Ming and I are hiding something from you? Mei Yu looked at everyone in disbelief, as if they should have known. After all, we have lived together for such a long time. Naturally, we have already noticed that Big Brother and Mei Yu are hiding something. Ilya touched her head a little shyly. Sorry, Ilya. Mei Yu looked at Ilya a little apologetically. It's okay, Mei Yu. Everyone has things that they don't want to talk about. Ilya. Mei Yu looked at Ilya rather emotionally. If you don't catch up, we are going to leave. Blackie's voice came from afar. Ilya and Mei Yu came back to their senses and realized that they were the only ones left. Wait for us. Chapter 267. Starting from the ground, there was a spiral staircase that led to the bottom. Ta-ta-ta-dash. Wu Ming and the others arrived at the bottom of the staircase. After arriving at the bottom, Wu Ming realized that the space at the bottom was extremely large. The spiral staircase was just a passageway. This is the battle location we designed. Rin Enbin spoke first. Silent wonder surveyed the area in front of him. It was a semicircular cave with a diameter of nearly 100 meters. At a glance, there was nothing in the way of obstructions. This was an area that was created to facilitate Silent Wonder's battle. The walls were made of high-density alloy with a large number of magic runes engraved on them. They were mainly used to support the ceiling and prevent the cave from collapsing during battle. Since they had considered the possibility of a battle, they didn't use high-grade flooring. It was just a simple metal plate. How is it? It should be enough for your battle, right? Luvia asked Wu Ming. It's enough, but it'll take a while. Looking at Wu Ming, who was not in a hurry, everyone was puzzled. Is there anyone else coming? It's almost midnight. Rin Enbin said. Although they could enter the mirror world at a time other than midnight, it was more stable to enter at midnight. Coming. After Wu Ming said that, there was the sound of hurried running. A figure rushed down the spiral staircase and jumped in front of Wu Ming. I'm not late, am I? Bazette. Why are you here? Everyone was shocked. That's right. The person who came was Bazette in a men's suit. Is this your idea, Wuming? Luvia looked at Wuming in surprise. Yes. After all, Bazette's combat power is not to be underestimated. With her and you guys here, I can rest assured. For some reason, Wuming felt uneasy. Therefore, Wuming called Bazette, who was a servant, over. Is she really okay? After all, she was our enemy not long ago. Rin Enbin whispered into Wuming's ear. Don't worry. Since I've already become Master's servant, I'll definitely abide by the rules. Bazette vowed solemnly, speaking with a rather imposing manner. Otherwise, Master will deduct my tips again. I don't have a salary to begin with, so I can only rely on tips to get the funds to go home. Today, I almost blew up the kitchen. Not only did I not get my tips, but my working hours were also extended. In the end, I was even locked up to reflect on myself. Bazette said gloomily. This was also the reason why Bazette didn't appear when Mei Yu and Wuming were having dinner together. Aha! Ahaha, this is really hard work. Ilya laughed awkwardly. All in all, with Bazette here, your safety can be assured. Even if I have to risk my life, I will definitely protect your lives and get the tip. If you want to hurt you, you'll have to step over my life first. Bazette's face was full of I'm burning up. I think you're just doing it for the tip. Ilya looked at the burning Bazette speechlessly. Looking at the group that wasn't nervous at all, Wuming smiled. Brother Wuming. At this moment, Mei Yu walked in front of Wuming. You must come back safely. Wuming looked at Mei Yu's eyes. The determination and trust in her eyes were conveyed to Wuming. I definitely will. I haven't eaten enough of the food Mei Yu cooked for me. Yo, FGLA stood up. Then I'll be right back. Wuming walked to the center of the empty space underground and waved his hand with a smile. Teleportation begins. With Colossus' voice, the magic circle wrapped Wuming, and Wuming disappeared. Wuming opened his eyes that were closed because of the white light at the moment of teleportation. He was moving toward the mirror world, surrounded by a strange space. A virtual space? Wuming said. This was a space that existed on the reverse side of the world, and the mirror world was also on the reverse side of the world, a space that was rooted above the virtual space. At this time Wuming heard a song, but the sound was quite sad. This is... The moment Wuming heard the song, he felt that his body's function had declined. According to the attributes of a servant, all 6 attributes had declined by 1 level. His strength, durability, and agility, which were originally grade C, had all been reduced to grade D. Other than his mana, which was still grade X, even his luck and noble phantasm had been reduced by a grade, from grade A and A+ to grade B and B+ respectively. Wuming looked at a certain place through mana perception. Unfortunately, Wuming only vaguely saw a figure with big horns before he was teleported away. Wuming appeared in the underground cave's mirror world. Just now, who was that? Wuming thought about the figure he saw just now. With just a song, Wuming's attributes were reduced. Although he was a servant, being able to reduce Wuming's attributes showed how powerful he was. If my main body was here, I wouldn't be afraid of that guy. Unfortunately, I'm still sleeping inside my origin. Wuming said regretfully. After all, regardless of whether it was an enemy or an unknown thing, Wuming was interested in that figure. However, things seemed to be a little bad now. Wuming looked at the huge magic fog that was still spinning in the center of the cave, and a berserker's roar came from it. This is a little bad. After all, facing a powerful enemy, Wuming's attributes were reduced. No matter how one looked at it, Wuming was at a disadvantage. Such a huge magic fog that can be used as both a spear and a shield. How much magic did this guy absorb? Wuming frowned. Although it was still not as powerful as Wuming's magic, this magic fog was indeed quite large. I hope he wasn't stained by the strange black mud. While Wuming was talking, the card servant in the magic fog launched an attack. Swish! 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 5 or 6 iron whips formed by the magic fog viciously lashed at Wuming. Boom! The floor was smashed. Wuming jumped up, floated in the air, and then took out a silver holy sword from the golden ripples that appeared beside him. I'll accept the greeting gift. Now, it's my gift to you. Stars hidden in the world, holy sword that annihilates all evils. There is no need to cover your light anymore, shine. The broken holy sword turned into a silver dragon-shaped light beam and rushed toward the magic fog that was constantly spinning. Silver meteor. Chapter 268. A violent explosion appeared in front of Wuming, and a gust of wind engulfed Wuming. His clothes fluttered in the wind. The mana fog dispersed, but what entered Wu Ming's eyes was a huge shield. This sense of déjà vu really makes one feel somewhat helpless. This scene caused Wu Ming to recall the scene when he was fighting Romo. Back then, Wu Ming had also fired a beam of light, but it was blocked by Rama's Aegis shield. However, it wasn't the Aegis shield, but a shield that Wu Ming didn't recognize. A noble artifact? After all, only a relic could block Wu Ming's silver meteor. At this moment, the huge shield began to crack. Then, it shattered and turned into bits of black light before disappearing. After the shield shattered, the figure behind the shield was revealed. This figure was pitch black. Other than its blood-red eyes and the blue lines on its cheeks, the rest of its body was completely black. Let's call him Black Follower for now. It seemed that the Black Follower was furious because his shield was broken. He waved his hands, and countless black ripples appeared on the ground beside him. This move. Could it be? Wu Ming looked at this very familiar scene and felt a little excited for a moment. However, the Black Follower would not let go of any opportunity to kill the enemy. Countless swords, spears, swords, and halberds emerged from the black ripples. Black Follower turned his hand, and countless weapons were pointed at Wu Ming. The weapons that were summoned by Black Follower were all noble relics. Swish, swish, swish. Countless relics shot towards Wu Ming, but Wu Ming did not panic at all. He did not even try to dodge. Then, a series of explosions occurred at Wu Ming's location. Boom, boom, boom. After the explosion, smoke and dust covered the place where Wu Ming was standing. As expected, you are the hero king. Gilgamesh, my disciple. Wu Ming's voice came from the dust cloud. Black Follower was slightly stunned when he heard someone calling his name. When the dust settled, Wu Ming held a shield in his hand. It was the Aegis shield that Romo had used in the previous battle. The Aegis shield. Behind Wu Ming, the Manchala formation appeared. Then, Wu Ming put the shield back into the formation, and the formation disappeared. That's right, this was the materialization of the Sword of Salvation held by the last king, the Manchala formation, which was comparable to the Gate of Babylon. After successfully becoming the hero and becoming the last king, Wu Ming thought more than once that since the Sword of Salvation was the weapon of the last king, could Wu Ming, who had become the last king, use the Manchala formation and the countless god relics in it? The answer was yes. Wu Ming had successfully materialized the Sword of Salvation and formed the Manchala formation. He had also taken out the god relics in it and used them. Now, Wu Ming had turned the tables on Black Follower. But shouldn't you be with Angelica Ainsworth? Why are you here? That was right. Angelica, who fought Wu Ming in the parallel world, had undoubtedly used Gilgamesh's card. The Gate of Babylon wasn't something that anyone could use. Only Gilgamesh, the king of Babylon, could possess this precious artifact. Just when Wu Ming was thinking, Black Gilgamesh summoned countless relics from the black ripples again. Forget it. I'm the idiot who's talking to you. No matter what, you're just a force without consciousness now. As Wu Ming spoke, the Manchala formation appeared behind him again. Black Gil roared and shot countless relics at Wu Ming. Meanwhile, Wu Ming simply waved his hand and countless god relics shot at Black Gil. Bang! 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 Black Gil's relics collided with Wu Ming's god relics and the explosions cancelled each other out. Oh! Black Gil was enraged, perhaps seeing that the technique that he was proud of did not work. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. A black ripple appeared in Hegil's hand, and a strange weapon emerged from it. It was a weapon that looked more like a staff than a sword. Is that the Guile Separation Sword? Wu Ming recognized the weapon that was accompanied by a raging red hurricane as soon as it appeared. After all, Wu Ming had used it before and there was a weapon similar to the Guile Separation Sword in the Manchala formation. However, Wu Ming was not going to use the Guile Separation Sword from the alternate world. That was because... Xiaofan! As Wu Ming commanded, Countless chains shot out from the golden ripples behind Wuming. Their target was Black Gil, who was holding the Guile separation sword. Ah! Black Gil seemed to have sensed the danger as well. He immediately summoned the black magical mist around him to block the chains and set up many shield relics in the magical mist. However, how could the improved version of Enkidu, which had both offense and defense, be blocked by the magical mist? Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The golden chains pierced through the magical mist, bypassed the shields, and instantly wrapped around Black Gil. The red hurricane on the Guile separation sword that Black Gil was holding disappeared, and the 3 rotating blades stopped spinning. Even the magical mist around Black Gil disappeared. This was the powerful power of the silent earthlock, Enkidu. The binding energy. The magic fog had been forced back into Hejil's body. The magic fog was formed by a class card, so it was natural for it to leak out when there was too much magic in the body. Naturally, it could be taken back. Ah! Black Gil roared furiously when he felt that he was restricted. Sure enough, it's just a force. If he's really here, how could he be so easily restrained by Enkidu? Wuming shook his head and crossed his arms in regret. Checkmate. Wuming flew down from the sky and walked to the restrained Black Gil. Wuming extended his hand and infused it with magical power. He instantly inserted it into Black Gil's heart and grabbed a card. It was the class card of the Archer class card. However, Wuming discovered a trace of a problem. He could not take out a class card. Hee. Hejil, who had been furious, instantly changed his expression. He chuckled as if his plan had worked. Then, Wuming felt that his hand was corroding. Releasing the class card, Wuming instantly pulled his hand out. Looking at his right hand that was still emitting black smoke, Wuming could not help but look at Black Gil's heart. I opened a big hole there, and there was some black substance inside the hole. However, the black substance was different from the black substance on Black Gil's surface. It was the black mud that had the aura of the Dragon of Origin. TSK. Trouble. Chapter 269. Outside the mirror world, Rin and Osaka and Luvia closed their eyes and crossed their arms as they waited quietly. Bizette, on the other hand, stood in the same spot without moving an inch. Mei Yu, on the other hand, looked worriedly at the place where Wu Ming disappeared. As for Ilya, why hasn't Big Brother come out yet? Ilya kept walking and started complaining. Little Black, who was sitting on the steps at the entrance, looked at Ilya with disdain. That's a guy who has absorbed the Earth Vein's magic power for almost 2 months. Even if it's Big Brother, it'll be troublesome. Then, Little Black smiled and waved his hand. But, with Big Brother's strength, he'll definitely be able to deal with it. But I'm very worried. I can't do anything about it. Ilya drooped her little head and said dejectedly. It's okay. It's normal for Ilya to be worried about Brother Wuming. You don't have to feel ashamed about it. Mei Yu, who was looking at the spot where Wuming disappeared, walked up to Ilya and patted her little head. It seemed like Ilya had never been patted on the head by Mei Yu before, and was unable to get used to it. What's wrong? Ilya, did I go overboard? Mei Yu had a worried look on her face. That's not it. It's just that I'm not used to it. Speaking of which, Mei Yu seems to be very familiar with it. Ilya patted her head with a smile. This is because Brother Wuming often patted my head at home. I learned it unknowingly, Mei Yu said embarrassedly as her cheeks reddened. Mei Yu can enjoy Big Brother's patting every day? I'm so envious. Ilya heard and cried out enviously. Ilya, don't be like this. I'm so shy. Wuming pushed Ilya with a red face. And just as Ilya was about to say something, the space around her shattered. Kacha! A red hurricane shot out from the broken space. What is this? Ilya asked in surprise. Then, a pitch-black face appeared in the shattered space. What is this? Ilya was clearly shocked. Ilya! Mei Yu! Hurry back! Rin Enbin yelled anxiously. He's not someone you can deal with. Luvia shouted. Bizette, on the other hand, was the first to rush over. Mei Yu stared blankly at Black Gil, who was not far away. She fell into an overwhelming silence. Mei Yu clearly knew that this enemy was Wuming's opponent in the mirror world. Since the enemy had broken through space and came out, then Wuming had already Brother Wuming. Huh. Bazette raised his fist, and Loon runes appeared on his fist. Bazette's strengthened fist heavily smashed into Black Gill's face. But, bang! Bazette was sent flying by the impact. He. Black Gill laughed with a twisted expression, and a dense black magic fog surrounded him. This is high-density magic fog. Bazette exclaimed in surprise. This scale is much greater than Saber's. Rin Enbin and Luvia were also surprised. Ilya, let's go. Mei Yu, who was awakened by Bazette's attack, instantly pulled Ilya and flew toward Rin Enbin and Luvia. Hurry! Ilya, you take me. Mei Yu, take Luvia. Let's quickly retreat from here, Rin Enbin said. But Big Brother he... Crack! Ah! Space shattered, and an exit that allowed Black Gill to pass through appeared. Black Gill laughed loudly. Whoosh bang! A black arrow hit Black Gill, and the resulting explosion covered Black Gill's figure. Little Black. Ilya looked at Little Black. What are you doing? Hurry up and retreat. Little Black maintained his bow and arrow posture, and projected another bow and arrow. But, Big Brother, he's still. Ilya said worriedly. Big Brother is very powerful. He'll be fine. On the other hand, if Big Brother comes out of the mirror world and finds out that we're dead, then Big Brother will be very sad. Ilya, let's retreat. At this moment, Mayo's voice came from beside Ilya. Mayu, why? Ilya didn't understand why Mayu also chose to retreat and give up on Wuming. Brother Wuming and I have an agreement. Brother Wuming said that he will definitely return safely from the mirror world. I believe in Brother Wuming. Seeing Mayo's firm gaze, Ilya was dazed for a moment. Then she smiled and nodded heavily. Okay, I understand. Let's go, Ruby. Wow. Wah. You're all pumped up. Whoosh. Boom. Blackie shot another arrow at Hegel. Ah! Black Gill was enraged by Little Black's behavior. Hurry up and come over. I'll cover you. Little Black, who was already at the entrance, naturally didn't need to take the lead. Thus, she needed to cover the others. Then, Ilya carried Rin Enbin while Mei Yu carried Luvia. The two of them flew toward the entrance of the passage. Bazette, who originally wanted to continue attacking, also began to retreat after Rin Enbin said, "The opponent has a noble artifact that can break through space. If you want to die, we won't stop you." It could only be said that Bazette was a little silly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Little Black shot a few more arrows at Black Gill. Bang! Boom! However, Black Gill's magical mist shattered all of Little Black's arrows. Ah! Black Gill roared. Black ripples appeared around him, and countless noble artifacts appeared. Oh! Black Gill roared again, and countless noble artifacts shot toward Little Black. Little Black, run! Ilya and the others had already arrived at the center of the passage, so they hurriedly called for Little Black, who was still fighting Black Gill and covering them, to retreat. Little Black jumped lightly and grabbed the handrail of the stairs in the passage. Boom 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 boom. Countless noble artifacts that lost their target bombarded the wall and the ceiling began to shake. Boom boom. Not good, Big Brother hasn't come out yet. Ilya exclaimed when she saw the underground cave began to collapse. It's too late. The collapse of the cave can only delay the Black Servant's footsteps. We must quickly leave the passage and return to the surface. Otherwise, it's likely that we will be killed in this passage. Rin Enbin said calmly. Ilya and the others who were no longer emotional looked at each other, nodded, and began to fly toward the surface. At this moment, a sound like an airplane taking off came from the underground. Chapter 270. This is... Rin and Osaka and the others were shocked. What they saw was a pitch-black aircraft that looked like a bird. If Wuming was here, he would definitely recognize this. Vimana, even in Gilgamesh's treasure trove, was one of Gilgamesh's favorite treasures. Vimla's entire body was made of gold and emeralds. It could roam freely in the sky and the sea. Not only was the Vimosa equipped with various high-level relics, but it was also equipped with ancient nuclear warheads. Most importantly, the Vimosa was powered by the sun crystal that used mercury as fuel to generate solar energy. It could move at a high speed, regardless of the laws of physics. Regardless of whether it was moving vertically, descending vertically, moving left and right, or flying diagonally, the Vimosa could do all of them. Moreover, it could ensure that the passengers were safe and sound. However, because the servant was in the dark state, all of Gilgamesh's noble phantoms, including Vimana, had turned black. The black bird moved towards the ground through the passageway, and all the stairs in the passageway were destroyed. Not good. Everyone, run. Rin Enbin shouted in panic. Even if Rin and Osaka hadn't said anything, even if Big Sister Rin didn't say anything, we would still leave. Ilya hugged Rin Enbin and flew out of the tunnel, crashing to the ground. Mayu, Luvia, Little Black, and Bazette also came out of the tunnel at the same time as Vimor flew out. Swish! Wei Mona flew up vertically like a giant bird. Soon after, the originally upright Vimona flattened out, and the pitch-black Gilgamesh sat steadily on the open-air seat of the Vimona. With a twisted laugh, he drove the Vimona away. Ah! Everyone who had escaped the calamity sat weakly on the ground. Ilya, Mayu, and Blackie looked at the collapsed tunnel with sorrow. They didn't say anything, only silence. Not good, that fellow is heading towards the city. Rin Tobasaka immediately recognized Vimona's movements and exclaimed in a panic. Let's hurry and stop him. Ilya stood up with a look of grief and indignation. Suddenly, a rather bored female voice sounded. I didn't expect the first-rate magician from the clock tower to be so useless, and you bunch of useless children. A silver-haired girl with golden eyes arrived in front of Rin Enbin and the others. Ms. Karen? Because Vimor seemed to be looking for something and didn't attack the city, Ilya and the others weren't in a hurry. The main point was that Karen, who seemed to be closely related to the Holy Church, had already used a spell to dispel and make people sleep. There were no longer any humans in the city. Rin and Osaka and Luvia both blushed when they realized this. It could be said that the two of them had failed in their duties for not preparing for this in advance. After a short conversation with the girl named Karen, Ilya and the others left the collapsed passage and temporarily found a place to rest, preparing to stop the Dark Gilgamesh. After Karen's explanation, everyone learned a lot of things, including the secrets of Wuming and Mayu, as well as what the Dark Gilgamesh was looking for. The Holy Grail? Sitting on a chair outside the small wooden house, Ilya said in confusion. After all, she was born to be the Little Holy Grail. What are you talking about? The Little Holy Grail is obviously me. Ilya, you can just be a primary school student. Little Black sat beside Ilya and comforted her, although the way he comforted her was a little unusual. Ahahaha, you're right. Thank you, Little Black. Ilya looked at Little Black with a face full of smiles. Humph. Little Black turned his head away proudly. Speaking of which, Mayu is suffering the most right now, right? Ilya looked at Mayu, who was staring at the moon in a daze. Yes, we don't know if Big Brother is dead or alive. Compared to Mayu, who is Big Brother's younger sister, the two of us are doing better. Of course, it didn't mean that Ilya and Little Black weren't worried about Wuming. It was just that Mayu, who had lived with Wuming for almost all of her life, must be feeling very uncomfortable now that she didn't know if her brother was dead or alive. Don't worry. Wuming is the great sage of the Uruk. He's a legendary fantasy breed that even Kenzaki couldn't destroy. How could he be killed so easily? Luvia's voice sounded. That's right. He's the teacher of the most ancient king. As the saying goes, the older you are, the wiser you are. If he dies so easily, it would be too degrading. Rin and Osaka's voice followed. Rin and Osaka and Luvia were standing behind Ilya and Little Black without them noticing. Ah, you scared me. Really, Sister Rin and Sister Luvia, why didn't you make any sound when you walked? Ilya was shocked. On the other hand, Little Black seemed to have noticed the two of them long ago and didn't show much panic. You're paying too much attention to Mayu. Look at Little Black and you're fine, Rin and Osaka complained. Is Mayu still worried about Wuming? Luvia looked at Mayu with some heartache. Although Mayu had only stayed in her house temporarily, Luvia had already treated Mayu as her younger sister. Big Brother, are you really all right? Ilya's voice became gloomy once again when this topic was brought up. You just need to believe in him, Rin and Osaka said confidently. Although it seemed like Rin and Osaka and Luvia weren't worried about Wuming's safety, they actually believed in Wuming. They believed that he was a heroic spirit who had saved them. He was a high-level existence, but he was still their equal partner. At that moment, Meiyu moved. Meiyu turned around and jogged to the small wooden hut where everyone was gathered. That aircraft is making a big move. Meiyu pointed at Vimona, who was moving at full speed toward Yuzong Mountain. It really is Yuzong Mountain. Let's go. Through the information provided by Karen and the judgment of Rin and Osaka and the others, everyone had more or less guessed that Dark Gilgamesh's target was the Great Holy Grail. Let's go. Yeah. Everyone replied in unison. Moments after everyone left, Karen and Bazette appeared. Aren't you going? Karen said rather uninterestedly. With him here I'm not needed, Bazette said in confusion. Are you so sure that he's still alive? Not sure but a fact. As if to prove Bazette's words, a ray of light suddenly appeared at the entrance of the collapsed tunnel. Seeing this ray of light, Karen and Bazette didn't say anything. After the ray of light disappeared, a meteor flew toward Yuzong Mountain. Damn it! I was careless and fell into his trap, Wu Ming said rather angrily. Just you wait. My cute disciple. Chapter 271. Near the foot of Yuanzong Mountain. Since Ilya and the others had already guessed the destination of the Dark Gilgamesh, they rested in a small wooden hut near Yuanzong Mountain. Therefore, they still neglected Vimona's full speed. As a result, Vimona arrived at Yuanzong Mountain ahead of time. Not far from Yuanzong Mountain. We should have set off for Yuanzong Mountain without stopping. Rin and Osaka complained. But if that's the case, Ilya and the others will also exhaust their stamina, Livia said. I have a question. Even if we catch up with that airship, how are we going to stop it? Ilya raised her small hand. Sure enough, we only planned to stop the Dark Servant first, but we didn't plan how to defeat him. Ilya's small face drooped. We can use Dream Summon Install. Meiyu said. Dream Summon Install? Ilya and the others were puzzled. With the help of a class card, transform yourself into a servant and obtain the power of a heroic spirit. That's how I came to be, Blackie said. But it seems that we're too late now. Ilya pointed at Vimona's light that descended, not knowing what to do. Vimona's ancient nuclear warhead was fired. Boom! A louder roar than before and a bright light that seemed to illuminate the world made Ilya and the others unable to open their eyes and temporarily lose their hearing. It couldn't be helped. Ilya and the others were not far from Yuanzong Mountain. But fortunately, Ilya and the others didn't arrive at Yuanzong Mountain ahead of time. Otherwise, they would have died without a complete corpse. My ears hurt. With the ruby's healing effect, Ilya quickly recovered. Mia was no exception. Rin and Osaka and Livia had already fainted. As for Blackie, although he still felt uncomfortable, he was still a servant after all. Blackie's recovery was still very strong. By the way, Wu Ming had implanted the magic power generator he made for Xiao Hei in the form of an artificial magic circuit into Xiao Hei's body. In other words, Xiao Hei would no longer disappear due to exhaustion of magic power. What should we do? He must have gone to look for the Holy Grail. Ilya said anxiously. Ilya, don't worry. Meiyu's voice suddenly choked up. Why are you crying, Meiyu? Xiao Hei and Ilya asked in surprise. Meiyu didn't answer Ilya and Little Black's question. Instead, she pointed at the meteor streaking across the sky. Ilya, who had ruby vision, and Xiao Hei, who had the body of a servant, saw the meteor clearly. It's Big Brother. Xiao Hei and Ilya's voices were filled with joy. Like Meiyu, the two of them couldn't help but shed tears. Brother Wu Ming. That's great. Brother Wu Ming, you didn't lie to me. You really left the mirror world safely. Meiyu was crying tears of joy as she spoke intermittently. Look, Big Brother has become a giant. Boom! The ancient nuclear warhead was detonated in Yuanzong Mountain. Wu Ming looked at Meiyu and others who were affected. Wu Ming instantly became furious. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me. I am the strongest, and I have all the victory in my hands. Be it human or demon, I am a person who can defeat all enemies, and I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. giants with unparalleled divine power. Please give me your aid. With the release of Phoenix's soul, Wuming gained speed beyond anything. With the release of giant, Wuming's magical power formed a huge giant. Come down! Wuming instantly came to the head of Dark Gilgamesh, who had released the ancient nuclear warhead and was ready to accept the Great Holy Grail. He punched him hard and hammered him to the ground. Wuming's punch directly shattered Vamona, then turned into a little black light and disappeared. Ugh! Dark Gilgamesh's voice came from the huge golden palm. Gurgle gurgle. A large amount of black mud appeared under the giant's golden palm. Whoosh! Wuming's golden palm began to smoke, and the black mud began to corrode the golden palm. Wuming controlled the giant to raise its palm and stepped back slightly. Sure enough, this black mud has a strong restraining effect on me. Wuming frowned and looked at the black mud that kept pouring out of Dark Gilgamesh's body. What kind of strong restraining effect was this? For example, if the black mud was left on the ground, it wouldn't have any effect on the flowers and trees on the ground. However, as long as it came into contact with silent noise, the black mud would explode like a mixture of raw materials, full of corrosiveness. When Wuming found the black mud in Dark Gilgamesh's body in the mirror world, the black mud took the opportunity to attach to Enkidu. With Wuming's attribute, the black mud naturally corroded Enkidu. As Enkidu was naturally injured. Wuming hurriedly lifted Enkidu's Enkidu and released Dark Gilgamesh. As a result, the black mud, as if found a breakthrough point, emerged from Dark Gilgamesh's heart and surrounded Wuming. Because the distance was too close, Wuming was instantly swallowed by the black mud. After that, Dark Gilgamesh had lost his opponent, so he took out the Gwaili sword and broke through the mirror realm. As for Wuming, it could only be said that Wuming was indeed an existence that countered the black mud. Wuming released the aura of his origin dragon. Although the black mud swarmed toward him like maggots, the lack of replenishment allowed the black mud to be eliminated by the aura of his origin dragon. Although he still couldn't understand why the black mud produced from the origin dragon could restrain Wuming and why the aura of the origin dragon could restrain the black mud, Wuming knew that if he mixed his moves with the aura of the origin dragon, the black mud would be severely damaged. The next time my main body wakes up, I should be able to find out the truth, Wuming thought. The black mud began to change. Countless black mud began to gather together and slowly fuse with Dark Gilgamesh as the center. Do you think I'll let you have your way? For victory. Come to me quickly. Immortal son. Please grant me a shining steed. Spirited steed. Bring me the light wheel that symbolizes your master. The sun descended on Winterwood City, which was originally dark. Chapter 272. Neigh! Accompanied by a loud neigh, a handsome white horse descended from the sky with the sun on its back. Boom! That night, the entire Yuanzhong mountain disappeared. House of Einstein Barons. Sela was sitting at the dining table, eating in small bites, while the TV was playing the news. Because a meteorite suddenly fell on Yuanzhong mountain last night, it caused the natural trachea buried in Yuanzhong mountain to explode. It's terrible, a meteorite suddenly fell to the ground, and is there natural gas in Yuanzhong mountain? Sela thought. By the way, when did I fall asleep last night? I don't remember. Well, isn't this good? Sela must be so tired that she doesn't even know when she fell asleep. Alice Field sat next to Sela, eating and looking at Sela with a smile. Is that so? Yes, Sela was too tired, she accidentally fell asleep. She should go to bed early in the future, Lizette complained. You're the one who often falls asleep. Sela said helplessly. Ma. Alice Field smiled even more happily. By the way, ma'am, do you really not need to call Ilya and the others? They had too much fun last night, let them have a good sleep. Shuayu residents. Mei Yu was sleeping in the room, while Wuming and Bazette were enjoying breakfast. Speaking of which, Master made quite a ruckus last night. Suddenly, Bazette opened his mouth. Last night, Wuming directly used double authority, and added a lot of his aura to summon the white horse, which directly melted Yuanzhong mountain, including the Great Holy Grail at the bottom of Yuanzhong mountain, and the black mud that formed the giant. Wuming's move directly burned the black mud. After using double authority, Wuming came to Mei Yu and the others in time to protect them. Ming still remembered how miserably Ilya, Mei Yu, and Little Black had cried back then. Ming comforted them for a while before they stopped crying. According to Xiao He, this was the price Ming had to pay for deceiving them. This made Ming smile bitterly. Moreover, Ming also promised to take the three of them to the amusement park as compensation. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, Ming shook his head and came back to his senses. I don't want to either, but if we continue to let him do as he pleases, who knows what will happen. Then, a golden ripple appeared behind Ming, and a young figure bound by Enkidu fell out. Plop! Ouch, teacher. Can't you be gentler? I'm your favorite disciple. A childish voice entered Ming's ears. Ming looked at the figure. He had a small body, short golden hair, red eyes, and a naked body. If it wasn't for Enkidu covering his 3 points, Ming definitely wouldn't have let him out. You still have the nerve to say that. You're clearly the hero king, yet you were corroded by a mere black mud. You should be thankful that I didn't send you back to the martyr's palace. Wumless gave the figure a ruthless slap. That's right, that was the young hero king, and it was not the female version that Ming knew. The hero king in this world was the male version. You can't blame me for this, teacher. The black mud has your breath, so I treated it as an ally. Young Gil looked at Ming with a smile. It seemed like Ming used a lot of force, but Ming didn't use much force. He only gently knocked on young Gil's head. Young Gil naturally knew that Ming wasn't this world's Hyunryong. However, due to the suppression, when Ming came to a parallel world, the identity of that world's Ming would be attached to Ming. If one had to say something, it would be that the suppression left a seat for Ming in every parallel world. As long as he came, that seat would be taken by Ming, and Ming would leave his mark in history. Young Gil knew Ming because of this. Although Ming had never seen the male version of young Gil, the female version of Gilgamesh that Ming knew was almost exactly the same as the male version of young Gil. Even their temperaments and personalities were the same. Seriously, put on your clothes and come over for dinner. Ming rubbed his forehead helplessly. Then, he took out a set of Uruk clothes from his relic and threw it to young Gil. The moment before the clothes touched young Gil, the heaven lock, Enkidu, was completely retracted by Ming. Young Gil didn't care about Bazette's presence. He quickly put on his clothes and sat next to Ming. I didn't expect you to save Enkidu in another world, sensei. Young Gil said with a smile. Although Ming's Enkidu had changed a lot, as a close friend, young Gil could still recognize Enkidu. When Enkidu bound young Gil, Enkidu and young Gil communicated. Even if they were close friends in a parallel world, that wouldn't change. Naturally, the two of them had a happy conversation. It's not considered saving. At that time, I escaped from the Uruk with my tail between my legs, Ming said casually. Ha ha ha. That's because sensei was restricted by the era. If you released your body, those gods would have surrendered to you a long time ago. Young Gil laughed as if he had heard a happy story. The gods all live in a higher dimension. In other words, they are already dead, Ming said to young Gil as he drank a mouthful of porridge. Even if they died 10,000 times, it wouldn't be enough, sensei, young Gil said with a smile. The reason young Gil said this was naturally because of Enkidu. Enkidu, who was saved by Ming, stimulated young Gil and reminded him of the dead Enkidu of this world. Children shouldn't always talk about death, Ming flicked young Gil's forehead. Sigh. Sensei is so nice to children. I thought sensei had become a lolicon. Young Gil patted his chest and sighed in relief. Your personality is still so bad. I really don't know what you learned from me. Ming was a little speechless. I am the ancient king, the hero king, Gilgamesh. What I learned from sensei is naturally the basic principles of being a king. Don't pour dirty water on me. I don't remember teaching you to have a bad personality. Ming refuted young Gil's words with a little disdain. Sigh. Why are you like this, sensei? After I went to the West, I also had a disciple there. She was much better than you. Ming was talking about Artoria. Oh, someone who can be accepted as a disciple by sensei, then I have to get to know her. Young Gil's eyes were full of interesting charm. Bang! Ming gave young Gil another flick. Well, this time it was a hard flick. Sensei, it hurts. Chapter 273. Ming continued to eat as if nothing had happened. You've obviously become smaller, but you're still so uncute, just like the grown-up you. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. I also hate the grown-up me. Wouldn't it be better to be gentler? Although young Gil said so, Ming knew that whether it was young Gil or the grown-up Gilgamesh, their personalities were the same. It was just that young Gil was the two-faced type. He looked good, but in fact, he was full of evil interests. Now that I've destroyed the tactics of the Great Holy Grail, do you still want to pursue the Great Holy Grail? Ming asked without turning his head. Young Gil took a bite of Ming's food and showed an expression of enjoyment. Since the small Holy Grail is teachers, then I can only give it up. Young Gil smiled. That's suspicious. Ming stared at young Gil and said suspiciously. You appeared in the young version and not the grown-up version because someone used your other class card, right? Ming suddenly said. Well, as expected of teacher. That's right. Now most of my noble artifacts are on the other side. Young Gil smiled helplessly. Because Angelica used the Archer card of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh's other card, which was the current young Gil, could be considered as an incomplete version. That's good. I'm preparing to attack the side with your card. Do you want to make up the numbers? Ming's mouth curved into a smile. Hey, since teacher has personally appeared, do you still need me? Young Gil had a leisurely look on his face as he ate. Well, that's true. Since that's the case, you can stay here and look after the house. Ming smiled. Also don't bully Beauty. Ming smiled and said word by word. Yes, teacher. Young Gil smiled awkwardly. After dinner, Ming asked young Gil to wash the dishes. It had to be said that although the young Gil and the adult Gilgamesh had the same personality, the young Gil was able to control his temper more easily. When Ming said to wash the dishes, he eagerly went to do it. As for Bazette, he was sent out by Ming to buy ingredients. Ming held the omelette rice that he had specially left for Mei Yu. Moreover, it was Ming who had specially processed it with his magic to keep it warm. Then, Ming knocked on Mei Yu's door. Mei Yu, are you awake? Ming asked softly. However, there was no sound coming out from the room. Don't tell me she's still sleeping. Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then he opened Mei Yu's door. When he opened the door, as expected, Mei Yu was lying on her small bed. Because it was summer, Mei Yu's body was only covered with a thin layer of blanket. Ming put the omelette rice on the table beside Mei Yu's bed, then gently sat on Mei Yu's bed. Mei Yu is really cute. Ming laid in front of Mei Yu and carefully looked at Mei Yu's sleeping face. These few years, I feel like I'm raising a daughter. I really miss it. Fortunately, Mei Yu's nature was not very active. She was a quiet Mei Yu. Lowly. Moreover, Mei Yu was very sensible. This made Ming feel very relaxed and happy about raising a daughter. As if she sensed that there was someone around her, Mei Yu, who was sleeping soundly, moved and slowly opened her eyes. This is Brother Ming. However, Mei Yu seemed to be in a daze. She looked at Ming in a daze. It seems that yesterday was really tiring for you. This is the first time I've seen Mei Yu in such a daze. Ming said with some heartache. After all, last night, Mei Yu was not only worried about Ming's life, but also had to stop a powerful and terrifying enemy. Her body and mind were always tense. It was understandable that she slept like this. Brother Ming. Mei Yu said in a daze. What's wrong, Mei Yu? Ming said in an exceptionally gentle tone. He could not wake up a person who was in a daze instantly. This would cause some damage to her mental state. It was better to wake her up slowly and gently. Ilya said. Everything in the dream is not real. Then, I want to. Brother Ming. Ming looked at Mei Yu in confusion. What does Mei Yu want to do with me? Ming moved closer to Mei Yu's ear and asked again. Ming really did not hear the last sentence that Mei Yu said. Kiss kiss. As she said this, Mei Yu reached out and grabbed Ming's neck. She instantly raised her head and kissed Ming. Ming widened his eyes. He really did not expect that Mei Yu, who usually looked especially quiet, would be so daring at this moment. Could it be that she was the same as usual, but became extreme in her sleep because of the suppression of her daily life? Also, what did Ilya tell Mei Yu? Fortunately, even if Mei Yu became extreme, she was still Mei Yu. Wu Ming only touched her slightly. After touching Wu Ming's lips lightly, Mei Yu let go of Wu Ming. At this moment, Mei Yu, who was in a daze from her sleep, was almost awake. Mei Yu came back to her senses. She looked at Brother Wu Ming's face that was incomparably real. She recalled what she had done just now. Mei Yu was stunned. That. I've prepared some food for you. Hurry up and eat, Wu Ming said gently. Wu Ming did not stop because of Mei Yu's shallow kiss just now. Wu Ming adjusted himself and instantly recovered from his shock. It's just a kiss from a sister to a brother. It's no big deal. Wu Ming began to self-hypnotize himself, however. Mei Yu was unable to let go of what had just happened. Wu Ming. Brother. Mei Yu's entire head was as red as a monkey's butt. She stared blankly at Wu Ming and stuttered. Wu Ming looked at Mei Yu, who was unable to look at his eyes due to her shyness. He did not know whether to laugh or cry as he smiled. Hurry up and eat. I can feed you today. Wu Ming touched Mei Yu's scalding hot little head and said gently. If one did not know the inside story, Mei Yu's scalding hot little head might be mistaken as having a fever. Look, I made your favorite omelette rice for you. Wu Ming said as he picked up the bowl of omelette rice on the table beside Mei Yu's bed. Mei Yu was indeed a genius girl. After seeing that Wu Ming did not panic from the previous kiss, she calmed down a little. Do you need me to feed you? This is a rare opportunity, Wu Ming asked again. Okay. Mei Yu's little head nodded. Wu Ming held the bowl of omelette rice in one hand and the spoon in the other hand. He gently scooped up a spoonful of omelette rice and sent it to Mei Yu's mouth. Ah! Wu Ming said. Ah! Mei Yu opened her little mouth and sucked on the spoon. How is it? Wu Ming asked with a smile. Mei Yu tasted it carefully. It's delicious as always, Brother Wu Ming. Mei Yu still did not dare to look at Wu Ming. Her cheeks were slightly red as she said. Then let's continue. Okay. Chapter 274. Then I'll go out first. Also, Mei Yu's sleeping posture is very cute. Wu Ming finished speaking and left Mei Yu's room with an empty tray. Mei Yu lowered her head deeply, her cheeks red. Ruby, when did Brother Wu Ming come in? Mei Yu said shyly. Sapphire flew out from Mei Yu's hair and spoke while floating. Lord Wu Ming came in for about a few minutes. Because he sat beside you to observe Lord Mei Yu's sleeping posture, he woke Lord Mei Yu up. Then Lord Mei Yu kissed. Mei Yu instantly grabbed Sapphire and covered her mouth. It was Sapphire's hexagram. Probably. Lord Mei Yu. It was obvious that Mei Yu didn't cover Sapphire's mouth. Sapphire asked curiously. I don't think that Lord Mei Yu is a pervert who kisses her brother. After all, you aren't blood-related siblings. Theoretically you can. Don't say any more, Sapphire. Mei Yu blushed and shook Sapphire continuously. I understand, Lord Mei Yu. Then Mei Yu let go of Sapphire. Mei Yu thought about everything she did with Wu Ming and the words she said to Wu Ming. She shook her head in confusion. The reason why Mei Yu said that, since it's a dream, then everything isn't real, was because Mei Yu had almost been forcefully kissed by Ilya. After that incident, Ilya told Mei Yu that everything in the dream was fake. Children at this age like to dream, so it shouldn't be taken seriously. Ilya's goal was to let Mei Yu understand that her actions back then weren't because she liked Wu Ming. However, the extremely smart Mei Yu naturally knew that Ilya liked her brother. In the end, Mei Yu misunderstood that Ilya meant that they could do anything in the dream. In the end, the aforementioned morning kiss happened. Woo-woo. After thinking about it carefully, Mei Yu covered her face in shame and started sobbing. Wu Ming left Mei Yu's room and went to the kitchen. When Wu Ming came in, young Gil, who was washing the dishes, raised his hand to greet him. Yo, teacher, you're finally out. Young Gil finished washing the last dish and looked at Wu Ming. Wu Ming placed the plate beside young Gil's dish. I'll leave this to you too. You're feeding me personally, aren't you? That's nice. Even teacher hasn't fed me before. Young Gil obediently started washing the dishes again. That's because you're a man. Wu Ming waved his hand. Back then, he had fed the lowly Gil quite a lot. However, as they grew older, the lowly Gil became the cold and domineering big sister Gil. Therefore, Wu Ming's feeding privilege was revoked. Sigh, and you said that you don't like lowly. Teacher, seriously. Wu Ming narrowed his eyes. He could only say that he was indeed the male version of Gilgamesh. He was even more mischievous than the female version. You'd better be prepared. I'll introduce you to my friends later. Remember, don't cause trouble for me and don't talk nonsense. Yes, teacher, young Gil replied with a smile. I hope so. Wu Ming left the Shuayu residence. Before he left, Wu Ming handed a game to young Gil. This is a modified version of Grand Strategy that I've specially modified with magic power. Clear it before I come back, Wu Ming said. After all, he had to find something for young Gil to do. Otherwise, with his mischievous taste, it was inevitable that he would cause some trouble. Wu Ming arrived at the house of Einstein Barons and parked the car at the door. Wu Ming entered Ilya's house. Wu Ming walked to the door. Just as Wu Ming was about to knock on the door opened by itself. Ah, isn't that Mr. and Mrs. Xiao? Ah, isn't this Mr. Wu Ming? Are you here to look for Ilya and Blackie? They're still sleeping. It's so rare that the two of them are sleeping together. I've been looking at their sleeping faces for a long time. Mr. Wu Ming, you should go and take a look. Alice Phil was just about to go out and bumped into Wu Ming when she opened the door. What a coincidence, madam. Are you going out? Wu Ming said gracefully. Yes. After all, the meteorite last night caused the natural gas pipeline to explode, and Yuanzhong Mountain was blown away. I have to check it out. Looking at the smiling Alice Phil, Wu Ming felt awkward. The news report about the meteorite causing the natural gas pipeline to explode and collapse was naturally made up by Wu Ming and the others to cover up the ordinary people. However, Wu Ming didn't know that the disappearance of Yuanzhong Mountain was actually explained as the meteorite causing the natural gas pipeline to collapse. Last night, Wu Ming handed this matter over to Rin Enbin, Wuxia, and the others. Then, he left with Ilya and the others. After all, the disappearance of Yuanzhong Mountain would definitely be discovered by the citizens. They had to deal with it as soon as possible. The result was, they're really unreliable. Wu Ming complained in his heart. About that, I'll take care of it in the near future. Wu Ming touched his head awkwardly. Allah, that's great. Then, I'll take my leave first, Mr. Wu Ming. After saying that, Alice Phil left the Arinsbellen mansion. Wu Ming let out a long sigh of relief and then walked into the house. After greeting Sela, Wu Ming went directly to Ilya's room. According to Sela, Ilya and Little Black slept together last night, so Wu Ming only needed to go directly to Ilya's room. Ilya, Little Black, are you awake? Wu Ming knocked on the door and asked. After waiting for a few seconds, Wu Ming determined that the two were still asleep. I'm coming in. With that, Wu Ming pushed open the door to Ilya's room. What entered Wu Ming's eyes was Little Black and Ilya's intertwined sleeping posture. Seriously, both of them. Why are their sleeping postures so improper? Wu Ming shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Wu Ming walked to the side of the bed, bent down, and shook Ilya and Little Black. Ilya, Little Black, it's time to wake up. I have something to tell you. Wake up. Following Wu Ming's shaking in voice, Ilya and Little Black opened their eyes in a daze. Hey, it's Big Brother. Good morning, kiss. Ilya smiled in a daze and reached out to hug Wu Ming. Again? Wu Ming, who had experienced it before, naturally did not fall for it this time. However, this was not the main point. But Ilya hugged Little Black and kissed Little Black's lips. Big Brother, Ilya said as she kissed. Wu Ming silently cast a soundproof barrier, just in case. At this moment, Ilya just woke up. Ilya was silent and looked at Little Black in a daze. Then, she looked at Wu Ming, who was standing at the side. Wu Ming was also silent and did not say a word as he looked at the ceiling. Ah! Ilya's screams caused Wu Ming to helplessly cover his ears. As expected, I'm the genius who set up the soundproof barrier. Chapter 275. Alright then, I'll leave with Ilya and Little Black first. Wu Ming held Ilya and Little Black's hands and stood at the door to bid farewell to Sela. However, Little Black seemed to be holding back her laughter, while Ilya lowered her head with a blushing face. Yes, take care, Sila smiled and waved goodbye. After walking out of the door, Little Black began to laugh. Hee hee, Ilya is so cute. Little Black looked at Ilya playfully. Woo woo woo. Ilya felt even more ashamed. Even though Ilya's scream didn't reach Sila's ears, it woke up Little Black, who was still sleeping. Looking at Ilya's flushed and bewildered expression, looking at the astonished Wuming, feeling the moisture on her lips, and combining it with Ilya's scream, Little Black instantly understood everything. Come to think of it, I'm the victim. Why are you so shy when I haven't even said anything? Little Black looked at Ilya helplessly and held her forehead. But, hoo-hoo. Ilya lowered her head even more. Isn't it because you wanted to have a morning kiss with Big Brother and ended up kissing me instead? Or is Ilya regretting that she didn't kiss Big Brother? At that moment, Little Black became mischievous again. You're talking nonsense. I didn't. However, Ilya's blushing and stuttering rebuttal didn't seem to be valid. All right, that's enough. Little Black, let Ilya off. With soundless pleading on Ilya's behalf, Blackie naturally nodded. By the way, why did Big Brother look for us today? Little Black asked the key question. At the same time, Ilya also looked at Wuming. Of course, it's about the 9th class card. After Wuming said that, the two of them became particularly serious. After all, the servant transformed from the 9th class card was rather terrifying. Shua Yu residence. A dark spatial door appeared out of thin air. Wuming walked out with Little Black and Ilya. We're here. Wuming let go of the hand that was held by Wuming out of fear. It had to be said that this teleportation gate spell was indeed a little scary, but it couldn't be helped. After all, it was a spell designed for darkness-type monsters. Ilya? Little Black? Mayo's voice came from the side. Mayu was sitting on the sofa in the living room, doing her summer homework. Mayu! Ilya shouted excitedly and then ran to Mayo's side. Little Hay also walked over. After seeing Mayu doing her summer homework, Little Hay didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I really don't know if I should say that Mayu is a natural or a careless person. She just went through such a horrible experience, but the next day, she started doing her summer homework as if nothing had happened. Wuming smiled helplessly. Mayo's personality was like that. Basically, she wouldn't be emotionally unstable because of anything. And the only time she had emotional lines was when Wuming's life was uncertain. But at that time, Mayu still insisted on doing what she was going to do next and didn't lose her fighting spirit completely because of emotional lines. Got to say, Mayu had an extremely calm mentality that even adults didn't have. But no matter what, Mayu was only a primary school student. After Wuming appeared from the mirror world, Mayu choked up and couldn't speak. This was clearly proven. Because if I don't do a little every day, I will have to work hard to make up for it in the future, Mayu answered in a serious manner. As expected of Mayu. That's Mayo's style of answering. Ilya and Little Black smiled awkwardly. It's about time, Wuming suddenly said. Question mark. Ilya and the others looked at Wuming in confusion. Master, I've brought Rin and Osaka and Luvia Serena Edelfelt here. At that moment, Bazette's voice sounded from outside the door. Shortly after, Bazette pushed the door open and entered, followed by Luvia's black twin ponytails and blonde wavy hair. When Wuming got Bazette to buy ingredients, he also got him to bring Rin and Osaka and Luvia over. In the end, the natural Bazette tied up Rin and Osaka and Luvia and brought them over. Everyone arrived at a small conference room and sat on 2 rows of sofas in the conference room. Seriously, we would have come back if you just let us know. Is there a need to do this? Rin and Osaka stroked her twin ponytails in displeasure. That's right. You're really not ladylike at all and you don't respect ladylike women at all. You actually tied me up with Rin and Osaka. Luvia stroked her blonde wavy hair. What do you mean by that? Do you think I still like being tied up with you? Rin and Osaka glared at Luvia fiercely. Ah, what a pitiful attitude, Rin and Osaka. Luvia mocked back. Aha! Wuming, who was sitting at the head of the table, coughed twice and then glared at Bazette. Bazette's body immediately tensed up like a mouse that saw a cat. She knew that she did something wrong again. Probably. Wuming, who was sitting at the head of the table, stopped glaring at Bazette and began to speak. First, Let's talk about the ninth grade card. Everyone had a serious look on their faces. After all, the blackened servant yesterday was an existence that fooled Wuming, and in the end, Wuming had to use Sun to eliminate the blackened servant. The blackened servant yesterday is my disciple, Hero King Gilgamesh. Brother Wuming's disciple. Ilya, Xiaofan, and Mei Yu were surprised. Sure enough. Rin and Osaka and Luvia said secretly. Yesterday, the blackened Gilgamesh used countless noble phantoms to bombard Rin and Osaka and the others. Not only did he have a noble phantasm that could cut through space, but he also had an airship that could fly and release ancient nuclear bombs. After Rin and Osaka and Luvia's investigation, they almost locked onto the ancient king, Hero King Gilgamesh. The airship yesterday was Vimona, am I right? Bazette said. Wuming nodded. But that Hero King was defeated by Big Brother, right? Ilya meant that there was no need to talk about the defeated enemy. No, actually, when I defeated him, I also destroyed the Great Holy Grail technique in Yuzong Mountain. As a result, the two of them had some connection. With that said, Wuming snapped his fingers, and a golden ripple appeared beside him. Clatter! Young Gilgamesh fell to the ground with the sound of chains. Hello everyone. I'm Master's favorite disciple, Gilgamesh. Nice to meet you, eh? Chapter 276. Young Gil's body was wrapped in chains, but even so, he still greeted everyone. This child is Big Brother's disciple, the oldest king. Ilya said in disbelief. It's the real deal. I'm the oldest king, the Hero King, Gilgamesh. Looking at young Gil's sweet smile, Ilya was dumbfounded. But why is the legendary oldest king a child? Blackie voiced out the doubts in Ilya's heart. This is probably how the Hero King, Gilgamesh, looked like when he was young. As expected of a first-rate magician from the clock tower, Rin Enbin instantly thought of this possibility. Rin is right. Because most of Gil's power is in another card, the current Hero King, Gilgamesh, is also a weakened version of a child, Wuming explained. Wait. Another card. Luvia repeated what she heard from Wuming. Yes, that's right. This is also the topic of this meeting that I called everyone here. Then, Wuming told everyone that he and Mei Yu came from another world, which was the parallel world. Because of the House of Einstein Barons of the other world, Ainsworth's persecution of Mei Yu, Wuming fought with him and was tricked in the end. Shiro Amiya of the other world used the Holy Grail to make a wish and sent Mei Yu to this world. He also came to this world because he was pulled by the Holy Grail when he disappeared. He told everyone a series of things. Big Brother from the other world? Ilya said slowly. The House of Einstein Barons of the parallel world, Ainsworth? Blackie said with a serious expression. The Holy Grail War of the Cards? I see, Bazette said thoughtfully. No wonder you know so much about the class cards. Rin Enbin looked at Wuming and Mei Yu with a look of relief. So why are you telling us all this? Luvia asked. Isn't this what you've always wanted to know? Wuming smiled. I'm sorry, Ilya, Little Black. Mei Yu looked at Ilya and Little Black apologetically. How could that be, Mei Yu? After all, everyone has things that they don't want to talk about. It's not your fault. Ilya held Mei Yu's hand and smiled at Mei Yu. It wasn't easy for Ilya to say something reliable, but she's right. Mei Yu, if you want to blame someone, blame Big Brother. It's Big Brother's fault for hiding it from us, Little Black said mischievously. No. You can't blame Brother Wuming. I'm also responsible for everything here. Mei Yu shook her head in a slight panic. This made Wuming laugh. You guys. I'll buy ice cream for you guys later as an apology. How about that? Really? I want strawberry-flavored ice cream. And it's a double-layer ice cream. Ilya looked excited. Seriously, a mere Ilya was bought over by ice cream. Little Black looked at Ilya with disdain. Heh. Ilya didn't refute. She scratched her head awkwardly. If it's me, I want 4 layers of double-flavored ice cream, Little Black said proudly. Ah. Little Black, you're still talking about me. Aren't you also bought over? Ilya's little face puffed up like a little bun as she stared at Little Black. I think Wuming, you must have other things, Wuxia said after thinking for a while. Wuming smiled slightly. You're right. I'm preparing to attack Ainsworth, and I want you guys to help me take care of Mei Yu. What? When Wuming said this, everyone shouted in surprise. Among them, Mei Yu had the most intense reaction. Why? I want to go back with Brother Wuming, Mei Yu said with a slightly anxious tone. That's not a good choice, Wuming. Rin Enbin crossed his legs. You said it yourself. Because you were defeated by Ainsworth, with the help of the parallel worlds. Amiya, Kuan, Mei Yu was sent to this world. If you go back, wouldn't you be walking right into a trap? Ilya and Little Black nodded frantically. Unfortunately, even if I don't go back, Ainsworth has the ability to find this place. Since that's the case, I might as well act first and gain the upper hand, Wuming explained. Then, Wuxia arrogantly pointed at herself. If that's the case, you'll need someone else's help. Coincidentally, I, Wuxia Sarinta Eiderfelt, happen to be a good ally. I'm quite free these days. Also, don't forget, you promised to help me analyze class cards. If you don't know how to do it, who's going to help me analyze class cards? Rin Enbin followed Wuxia's words and said. When Wuxia heard this, her expression changed. Damn you, Rin Enbin, you actually secretly asked Wuming to help analyze class cards behind my back. Wuxia stared at Rin Enbin, and Rin Enbin didn't back down and stared back at Wuxia. I'm hiding it from you, what can you do about it? Their eyes were filled with the flames of battle. Since they can find us, I think it's better to act first and gain the upper hand according to Big Brother's words. Although I'm not that strong, I'll still help with Mei Yu and Big Brother's matter. Ilya clenched her fists and encouraged herself. My heart is the Archer class card. Since I'm already involved in this matter, of course I have to help Big Brother solve this matter. Little Black then jumped into Wuming's arms and hugged Wuming's neck affectionately. Moreover, the magic power essence that Big Brother gave me is now flowing well in my body. I have to repay you well. You. What are you doing? Little Black. Get down from me. Ilya's face instantly turned red, and she quickly ran over to pull Little Black away from Wuming's arms. This matter has nothing to do with me, but the other party has all the secrets of the class cards. As the designated executor of the seal, I have to take it back. Bazit had a serious expression. However, Wuming looked at Bazit with a teasing expression. Cough, after all, I still owe you a debt, master. Bazit's face turned red. It had to be said that although Bazet was a bit silly, as a magician, he still had a bit of humanity. Of course it was only a bit. Everyone. Mei Yu looked at everyone in the room with tears in her eyes. As if in tacit agreement, Rin and Osaka and Wuxia who were glaring at each other, Ilya and Blackie who were tugging at each other, and Bazit who had been sitting there without moving, all looked at Wuming in unison. Wuming closed his eyes and said helplessly. It's really troublesome. I understand. Then I'll leave it to everyone. Oh. It's good to be united, don't you think so, Little Blue? Ruby floated on the side and said while watching the scene. Sister finally said something reliable. I'll reluctantly accept you today. Sapphire said calmly. Little Blue, why are you like this? I'm so sad. Please don't do this again, sister. Finally, young Gil, who had been tied up by Enkidu, looked at Wuming with a smile. Sensei, it seems that you're becoming more and more human. Chapter 277. Then, everyone freeloaded a meal at Wuming's house. A few days later, Ilya and Blackie used the excuse of going camping with Wuming to apply for leave from home and left the Arinsbellen mansion. When everyone was ready at the Shuasuki mansion, Wuming wasn't in a hurry to activate the parallel world technique. As for whether Wuming could travel through parallel worlds, it was naturally a piece of cake for Wuming, who could travel through parallel worlds on his own. Because he needed to locate the parallel world where Ainsworth was, Wuming spent a few days. This was also why Ilya and the others only applied for leave a few days later. Seriously, what do you mean by eating the last dinner in this world? You make it sound like we're dead for sure. Rin and Osaka ate the dinner Wuming prepared and complained at the table. Well, after all, I haven't finished locating that parallel world. Bringing the entire Shuasuki mansion through parallel worlds isn't an ordinary job, Wuming said. Well, big sister Rin, please understand big brother. Ilya smiled, but her smile was a little puzzled. By the way, why did big brother bring his mansion through with him? Isn't that too strange? Blackie asked the question that Ilya didn't ask. Bazette, Luvia, and Rin and Osaka also looked at Wuming, indicating that they also wanted to know. Then, Wuming smiled but didn't say anything. It's like this. The Shuasuki mansion that Brother Wuming built is actually Brother Wuming's magic workshop, Meiyu said. Although Wuming didn't tell Meiyu about the workshop's control room Meiyu vaguely knew about it, but Meiyu didn't ask. As for the other places in the Shuayu residence, when Wuming had found Meiyu and brought her to the Shuayu residence, Wuming had told Meiyu everything. Meiyu could be said to be Wuming's most beloved person. It was true that Wuming had been to many places and met many people, but Wuming really regarded Meiyu as his closest relative. The other was an origin dragon that had no parents and only had the great origin as its ultimate goal. One was a pure holy grail from birth. Meiyu was born with a mechanism that allowed her to fulfill her wishes based on the influence of her surroundings. Before meeting Wuming, she had only met her mother. Before meeting Wuming, she had not received any general education. It was only after meeting Wuming that she began to grow as a person. Julian once said that rather than saying that Meiyu had the nature of the Holy Grail, it was better to say that the Holy Grail had awakened a human personality. Meiyu was such an existence. It could be said that before the age of 5, which was before all of Meiyu's relatives died, Meiyu could barely remember anything. At that time, Meiyu only remembered her mother. Now, due to the nature of the Holy Grail, Meiyu had forgotten about her mother. After all, for the Meiyu at that time, her mother was the only person she depended on. In addition, at the beginning, Shiro Amiya used Wuming and Meiyu as tools because of Amiya Kiritsugu's will. Therefore, Meiyu's closest relative could only be Wuming. Fortunately, Shiro Amiya was later enlightened by Wuming's words and began to treat Wuming and Meiyu as a real brother and sister. Meiyu also didn't ignore Shiro Amiya and had already regarded Shiro Amiya as a brother. However, compared to Wuming, this brother's weight was still not enough. Magic workshop. Having said that, Wuming's profession is caster magician, right? It seems that this makes sense. Rin Hosoka was surprised at first, then said after thinking about it. By the way, what does magic workshop mean? Ilya raised her small hand and smiled a little shyly. Really, Ilya, you can be regarded as a person who has stepped into the world of magicians. How can you not know the essential knowledge of magicians? Xiao Hei touched his forehead helplessly, then began to explain. The so-called magic workshop refers to the positions set up by the magicians themselves. In their magic workshop, the magician's magic will be greatly enhanced. Not only can they monitor the enemies in the magic workshop in real time, but they can also set up traps, weapons, and the like against the enemy in the magic workshop. In short, it is a very powerful magic fortress. Don't fight with magicians in their magic workshop. This is common sense in the world of magicians. Luvia said. Do you still remember the caster magician class card that we recovered? At that time, the mirror world had already been set up by caster as the magic workshop. At that time, the magic circle and the super powerful magic cannon attack that we saw at that time were the effects of the magic workshop. Rin Enbin added. In this way, Ilya completely understood. So Big Brother can also set up countless magic circles in his own house. Ilya said with some excitement. After all, the power of countless magic cannons was really not small, and the scene was very spectacular and gorgeous. Ilya naturally felt that it was very powerful. Well, in fact, I can do it now. Wuming touched his chin, then snapped his fingers. In an instant, countless magic circles of various sizes appeared in various places of Shuasuki's house. The courtyard, the house, the sky, and the ground were full of magic circles everywhere. Even the bowl and chopsticks used by Ilya had several small magic circles. Ilya was instantly shocked. This is... Each magic circle is full of magic power beyond imagination. There should be a limit to cheating, Bazette, Luvia, and Rin Hosoka said with some disbelief. Then, Wuming snapped his fingers again, and all the magic circles disappeared in an instant. These are very simple magic circles that can release magic cannons. What I don't lack the least is magic power. These are no big deal. Wu Ming said modestly.
Rin Hosoka and the others' mouths twitched.